you Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we'll be analysing important news appearing in the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 26 June 2019. The topics to be discussed today are reflected on your screen and the timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So let's begin. This news appears on page number 9 and is in respect with the recently released NITI Aayog's Health Performance Index. Now this index will become important from the perspective of prelims because UPSC is known to ask questions related to indices and various rankings. In addition to this, news discussion will also find relevance for GS paper 2 under the category of issues related to health. Now recently, NITI Aayog, India's premier think tank, has released a report titled Healthy States, Progressive India, Report on the Ranks of States and Union Territory. So basically in this report, NITI Aayog has come out with a composite health index which has ranked the various states and union territories in India on certain parameters to see how each one of them performs as far as the health sector of India is concerned. Now NITI Aayog, realizing the fact that health of its population is central to a nation's well-being and productivity, and that though India has made some significant gains in improving life expectancy, reducing infant and maternal mortality rate, etc., yet the improvement shown by India on the health front as a country has been very inadequate. And it is in this backdrop that the Performance in Health Outcome Index or the Health Index seeks to capture the annual progress of states and union territories on a variety of indicators. Now, as far as this index is concerned, this index has ranked the union territories and the states based on 23 major indicators which have been categorized across 3 domains. And these 3 domains are health outcomes, governance and information, and the third is key inputs and processes. Further, this index has been released by NITI Aayog in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and furthermore, technical assistance for the compilation of this index has been received by the World Bank. Now, though the list of these 23 indicators is a vast one, but the most prominent of them are neonatal mortality rate, under 5 mortality rate, total fertility rate, sex ratio at birth, full immunization cover, proportion of people living with HIV, proportion of functional 24/7 primary healthcare centers, etc. Now, another unique feature of this index is that the states and the union territories have been grouped in 3 categories to ensure that comparison is made among similar entities. Therefore, the 3 categories are 21 larger states, 8 smaller states, and the 7 union territories. Hence, the ranking 2 has been provided in these 3 categories because it should not happen that a union territory is being compared with a large state or vice versa. Now coming to the findings of this report. At the outset, you should know that this index has been prepared based on the data provided for the year 2015-16. Further, to record the progress made by the states, the base year of 2014-15 was used, whereas the reference year was of 2015-16. Now, as stated, this index has provided us with overall rank, plus it has also given us annual incremental progress rank. The change in the index score of each state from the base year of 2014-15 to the reference year of 2015-16 measures the annual incremental progress of each state. So as far as the ranking is concerned, for the larger states, it is the state of Kerala which has topped the ranking, whereas the state of Uttar Pradesh has been ranked the lowest. On the other hand, as far as the annual increment progress of the larger state is concerned, the maximum amount of progress has been made by the state of Jharkhand, Jammu and Kashmir, as well as the state of Uttar Pradesh. So here you see, this is more of a paradox because on one hand, Uttar Pradesh has been ranked the lowest, but at the same time, Uttar Pradesh has made a lot of progress when it comes to improving its health parameters. But then again, despite the annual incremental progress, Uttar Pradesh still ranks the lowest. For the smaller states, it's the state of Mizoram which has topped the rank, and the lowest rank has been received by the state of Nagaland. For the annual incremental progress rank, the state of Manipur has shown the maximum improvement, followed by Goa. And lastly, for the category of Union Territories, Union Territory of Lakshadweep has topped the rank, whereas Dadra and Nagar Haveli has been ranked the lowest. And further, even in the category of Annual Incremental Progress rank, it's Lakshadweep followed by Andaman and Nicobar, which have shown the maximum improvement. Now coming to the general finding, the first key result of this report is that there is a large gap in the overall performance of the best and the least performing states. To give you an example, amongst the largest state, Kerala has received the score of 76 points, whereas Uttar Pradesh has received the score of 33 points. Hence you can see there exists a large gap between the top and the least scoring state. The second observation by this report is that the states and the union territories rank very differently when it comes to their overall performance as well as their annual incremental performance. This we have already discussed by taking the example of Uttar Pradesh. Now as per the report, the reason for this is that the states and the union territories that start at a lower level of this index have an advantage because they have a lot of scope to notch up, that is to increase their progress over the states who already have a very high health index score. In fact, it is a challenge for the states at high levels of the index score to even maintain their performance level. For example, though Kerala ranks on top in terms of overall performance, but at the same time, Kerala ranks the lowest in terms of incremental progress, mainly due to the reason it has already achieved great progress on various indicators. Thirdly, the incremental measurement shows that about 1/3 of the states in our country have registered a decline in their health indices. And this is a matter of concern and should nudge the states to review and revitalize their programs effectively. For example, among the larger states, states like Uttarakhand, Himachal, Karnataka, Gujarat, Haryana, etc. have shown a decline in their performance from the base year to the reference year, despite some of them like Punjab and Kerala being among the top 10 in overall performance. Now coming to what can be the uses or the advantages of having this health index, it is stated that this health index can be a useful tool for systematic measurement of annual performance across all the states and union territories. In fact, this health index is the first attempt at establishing an annual systematic tool for measurement of performance of states on a variety of health parameters. And now that we have developed this index can be updated and used for the coming years and will help the states and the union territories to chalk out a health intervention program. In addition to this, the results and analysis in this report provide an important insight into the areas in which states have improved and into the areas in which the states have stagnated or declined. And this will now help the states in better targeting of intervention, because now the states will know on which parameters do they lag behind and what efforts should be made to improve the parameters which are not performing well. Lastly, during the compilation of this index, it was found out that a lot of states do not have adequate data on several parameters. Hence, this entire exercise of compiling this index has brought to light the need to have better data systems and to improve the method in which data is collected and compiled by various states on several parameters. Lastly, as far as the limitation of this index is concerned, the report states that some critical areas like non-communicable diseases, mental health, infectious diseases, financial risk protection, etc. could not be fully captured in the index because there was non-availability of acceptable quality of data on an annual basis. Hence, these all areas have not been covered properly. Further, it was found out that for several indicators, the data was limited or was inadequate or was not of acceptable quality. Therefore, for the indicators where adequate data was not available, analytical tools could not be used to derive a domain-specific weight or an indicator-specific weights. Hence, in all such areas, expert opinion was used. So this was all what the news was stating. More information on the index has been provided for in the PDF. With this, let's move on to our next news. The next news appears on page number 9 and is talking about the recently released Food and Nutrition Security Analysis of India by the World Food Programme. Now, this discussion of ours will become relevant from the perspective of GS Paper 2 under the category of issues related to health. Now, the World Food Programme has released a report titled Food and Nutrition Security Analysis of India, and this report has been released with the help of Ministry of Statistics and Programme Implementation. And in this report, the World Food Programme has basically analysed the progress made by India in achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 2. The Sustainable Development Goal number 2 relates to zero hunger, and it aims to end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, as well as promote sustainable agriculture. Now, the first observation made under this report is that though overall in the last 20 years there has been an increase in the production of food grains in India, but this increase in the production of food grain is not commensurate to the increase in the net availability of food grains to the people. So basically it says that both the production of food grains as well as the net availability has increased in India, but the level of increase in these two is not equal or commensurate. And the reason cited for the per capita net availability to not increase is firstly increase in the population, wastage and losses, as well as the exports of food grain. Secondly, as far as access to nutritious food is concerned, there has been a decline in the food expenditure both for the urban and the rural people. It has been found out that the share of expenditure on food has decreased around 33% in rural areas and 40% in the urban areas, whereas the non-food expenditure has increased. Now, this declining trend suggests two things. Firstly, that there has been an increase in the income of the people in both the urban and the rural area. And secondly, that food is no longer the only predominant expenditure for the people. That is to say, there is a change in the pattern of income expenditure where people have now started to spend more money on non-food items as well. Thirdly, as far as nutritional intake is concerned, it has been found out that the fat intake has increased steadily and in fact is much higher than the minimum daily requirement. Further, there has also been an increase in the protein intake of people. Now, coming specifically to the malnutrition trends, overall the malnutrition in India has decreased if we compare 2005-06 levels to 2015-16. Specifically, stunting, which is also known as chronic malnutrition, has decreased from 48% in the year 2005-06 to 38.4% in the year 2015-16. But on the other hand, the prevalence of acute malnutrition, which is known as wasting, has in turn marginally increased from 19.8% to 21% in the year 2015-16. Now, stunting basically means low height for age, and it is caused by long-term insufficient nutrient intake. That is chronic malnutrition. Chronic is something which persists for a long time. On the other hand, wasting means low weight for height, and it is usually the result of acute shortage of nutrients. Acute basically means something which is very severe. Moving ahead, underweight children have decreased from 42.5% to 35.7% again in 2015-16. And lastly, as far as anemia is concerned, that too has decreased from 69.5% to 58.5%. So overall, India is improving on the malnutrition front. Now you must be knowing that under the National Nutrition Mission, India has set an ambitious goal for itself where it wants to reduce stunting to 25% by the year 2022. And for this, India targeted that it will reduce stunting by at least 2% per annum to reach 25% by 2022. But as per this report, the present rate of reduction in stunting is only 1% per year. And going by this current rate, the report states that India will be able to bring down stunting to only 31.4% by the year 2022 and not 25% as it has targeted under the National Nutrition Mission. Moving ahead, the report points out that there are various intra as well as interstate variation when it comes to malnutrition. For example, stunting is most prevalent in children under the age of 5 in the state of Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Meghalaya, etc. However, district level mapping of malnutrition has showed considerable intrastate variations as well, because there are certain vulnerable pockets and sections even amongst the states which have much higher level of stunting or underweight kids. In addition to this, the report also points out that there is multiple types of malnutrition which is prevailing in India. Multiple burden of malnutrition is the coexistence of any two or all three measures of malnutrition. Malnutrition is basically measured through three parameters of stunting, wasting and underweight. And today in India, there is a prevalence of multiple types of malnutrition. That is to say, a lot of kids are either stunted and wasted, stunted or underweight, or both wasted or underweight. Moving ahead, when it comes to micronutrient deficiency, it is vitamin A, iron as well as iodine which are the major micronutrients deficient from the diets of Indian children. Further, the report found out that in India, there now exists a double burden of malnutrition. For several decades, India was only dealing with one form of malnutrition, that is undernutrition. However, in the last decade, the double burden, which includes both overnutrition as well as undernutrition, has appeared. Because now in India, at one hand, we have malnutrition kids, that is, who are undernutrition, but at the same time, prevalence of overweight or obese children has also increased. Lastly, the report has pointed out to certain socio-economic determinants of malnutrition as well. For example, it is stated that kids who are born to illiterate or uneducated mother are more prone or more vulnerable to being malnutrition as compared to kids born to educated mother. Additionally, it has been found out that the prevalence of malnutrition decreases with the increase in wealth. That is, wealthier the family, less are the possibility of kids being malnutritioned. Further, it has been found out that there is a negative correlation between sanitation and malnutrition. That is, higher the sanitation, less is malnutrition. And lastly, the report says that malnutrition is relatively more prevalent amongst the members of the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes or other marginally existing communities. Lastly, the report has also given certain recommendations to improve the status of malnutrition in India. The first is to improve the child feeding practices. It has been found out that though in India 94% of the children receive breast milk, only 9.6% of such children were consuming a minimum acceptable diet. Therefore, it is important to improve the child feeding practices so that the children get the diet which they actually require. The second recommendation is to have better food supplementation programs. Now in India, under the Supplementary Nutrition Program, take-home rations are given through the Anganwadis to children under the age of 3 years, pregnant as well as lactating mothers. Hence, it is felt and an opportunity to fortify the commodities in the take-home ration should be explored in order to address the micronutrient deficiency among the beneficiaries. The third is to improve the child and the mother care. The low prevalence of exclusive breastfeeding, lack of use of full antenatal care, low consumption of iron folic acid, etc. should be addressed effectively by increasing awareness and effective implementation of policies. Hence, a greater attention should be paid to improve the care which is imparted to mothers as well as children. Fourthly, it is recommended that maternal anemia should be prioritized. It has been found out that the distribution and consumption of the iron folic acid tablets remain suboptimal all over the country. Hence, it is time that such trends should be checked and maternal anemia should be brought to the front footing. Next, it is stated that there should be an improvement in sanitation, hygiene as well as water practices. because sanitation has a direct impact on malnutrition. So this was all what this report was stating. Lastly, you should know that the World Food Programme is the food assistance branch of the United Nations and the world's largest humanitarian organization. More information on the World Food Programme has been provided for in the PDF. Now, based on a discussion of this article, please try and attempt this mains practice question. With this, let's move on to our next news. This news appears on page number 15 and is talking about the recent recommendations given by the UK Sinha committee to address the problems affecting the MSME sector. Now, this discussion of ours will fall under GS Paper 3 in the category of Indian economy and issues related to it. The importance of the micro, small, medium enterprise sector of our economy can be gauged from the fact that the MSME sector contributes about 45% of the manufacturing output, 40% of the total exports, approximately 28% of the GDP, and also creates employment for about 111 million people. However, the MSME sector is facing a number of challenges which in turn are hindering this sector from achieving its full potential. Hence, the RBI had appointed a committee under the leadership of UK Sinha to address these problems of the MSME sector, and this committee has now come out with its recommendation. Now, the first recommendation by this committee is that there should be amendments to the Micro, Small, Medium Enterprise Development Act of 2006. Now, the committee says that the act should be amended in such a manner that the focus of this legislation should be on market facilitation as well as promoting the ease of doing business for the MSMEs. Hence, accordingly, the legislation may be reimagined as a comprehensive and holistic MSME code which has a provision for sunset on plethora of complex laws. Further, the committee feels that the new law will be able to address the major challenges which are plaguing the MSME sector, especially that relating to physical infrastructure bottlenecks, technology adaptation, capacity building, backward and forward linkages, lack of access to credit, problem of delayed payments, absence of formalization, etc. The second recommendation is to change the definition of what exactly is an MSME. Now, MSMEs presently are defined based on the investment in the plant and the machinery or equipment. But to facilitate ease of doing business, the government had proposed that this definition will be changed and now MSMEs will be defined based on their turnovers, thereby replacing the current investment-based definition. Further, the committee has found this new turnover-based definition to be more rational, transparent, progressive, and easier to implement with the GST. The current classification and the proposed classification has been provided for in the PDF. The third recommendation is to solve or address the issue of the delay in payments to MSME. In fact, the delay in payments to MSME is the biggest problem which is hindering the MSME sector today, and therefore the committee has recommended amendments to the MSMED Act, whereby it says that all MSMEs should mandatorily upload their invoices on an information utility, which is something like an online portal. Further, a monitoring authority has to be established, which will check this portal and keep a track of the defaulting buyers. So therefore, this mechanism will entail automatic display of the names of the defaulting buyers. Hence, in a way, it will act as a moral suasion through name and shame method. Additionally, it is stated that a majority of the states only have one MSME Facilitation Council, which is not adequate to cater to the delayed payment cases which arise in the entire state. Hence, there is a need to increase the number of these MSME Facilitation Councils, particularly in the larger states. Moving ahead, the fourth recommendation is to expand the scope of the GM portal. The full form is Government E-Marketplace Portal. Now, what happens is that currently, under the MSMED Act, the government has notified that all the PSUs and the government department have to make 25% of their procurement from the MSMEs. And now, to further strengthen the procurement mechanism, the government has also launched the GME portal, wherein the MSMEs can register on this portal and sell their products. Now, the committee has recommended that the government should make it mandatory for the PSUs and the government department to make this 25% of their procurement from the MSMEs through the GM portal only. Hence, the committee feels that making this compulsory 25% procurement only through GME portal will bring in much more transparency during the procurement process. The fifth recommendation is to improve the ease of doing business for the MSMEs. Now, presently, MSMEs have to do multiple registration with various entities such as Aayog Aadhaar portal, GSTN, National State Insurance Corporation, etc. And this leads to a cumbersome registration process and duplication of efforts. Hence, this committee has recommended that the government should make the PAN as a unique enterprise identifier and that the same should be used for various purposes like procurement, availing government-sponsored benefit, etc. So now the MSMEs will not have to register at multiple places but can use this PAN only for all their purposes. Further, the committee says that in order to stop the startups going to other countries, it is very important to incentivize startups in India itself by giving them an enabling environment, tax concessions, well-developed infrastructure, exit policy, etc. The sixth recommendation is in reference with the capacity building. Now, the government had already proposed that it will establish an enterprise development center within the district industry center. But till now, not much has been done on this. Hence, the committee is recommending that this proposal should be speed up and should be quickly implemented. The committee feels that the setting up of enterprise development centers will provide necessary hand-holding support to the entrepreneurs in various aspects such as technical know-how, managerial skills, filling up of knowledge gap, etc. The seventh recommendation is that focus should be shifted on MSME clusters. Now, you must be knowing that currently for MSME sector, India is following a cluster-based approach under which MSMEs are set up together in one region, under which MSMEs are set up in one contiguous region so as to enable better synergies between them. Hence, in this regard, the committee says that these MSME clusters must collaborate with companies which have innovative infrastructure or with some university or a research and development institution which specialize in a specific industry or a knowledge area, because this will help in knowledge exchange. The eighth is to strengthen the institutional framework. Now, currently, apart from the MSME ministry, even other ministries like HRD, Finance have a certain kind of bearing on the working environment of the MSMEs. Hence, it is recommended that a National Council for MSMEs must be created, which will be headed by the Prime Minister, and this National Council for MSME will work towards better coordination of development initiatives. Therefore, this National Council for MSME will be like a convergence mechanism. Additionally, such a council can also be set up at the state level. Further, it is also recommended that the Ministry of MSME may consider setting up of a non-profit special purpose vehicle to support crowdsourcing of investment by various agencies, particularly to pave the way for conducive business ecosystems for the MSME. The ninth recommendation is in respect to the Distressed Asset Fund. The committee recommends for a creation of a Distressed Asset Fund with a corpus of 5,000 crore rupees, and this will assist units in the MSME clusters who are at the verge of becoming an NPA due to some change in the external environment and not due to their own fault. Hence, this Distressed Asset Fund will make equity investment in that sector and will help the MSME to pay back their debt or revive the sick MSME units. The 10th is to have better access to finance. Now, currently, the PSB loans in 55-minute portal only caters to existing entrepreneurs who already have the required documents such as the GSTIN, income tax return, bank statement, etc. The committee has recommended that this portal should also cater to the needs of new entrepreneurs who may not necessarily have such information or document. Further, it is stated that currently the priority sector lending guidelines apply uniformly to all the lenders and mandates the banks to lend specific targets to a priority sector that is agriculture, small and marginal farmers, micro enterprises, weaker section, etc. At present, the overall target for any normal commercial bank is 40% and the target for small finance bank is 75%. Now, this committee has recommended that if any bank wishes to specialize in MSME lending only, it can do so, provided it can give 50% of loans, especially to the MSME sector as far as commercial bank is concerned, and 80% of the total loan as far as the small finance bank is concerned. Further, it is also stated that the RBI should increase the limit of non-collateral loans to 20 lakh from the present limit of 10 lakhs, and even the loans provided under the Mudra scheme should have an upper limit of 20 lakhs. So these were the major recommendations of the UK Sinha committee. We can expect articles and editorials in the future on this topic. Now, based on our discussion, please try and attempt this mains practice question. With this, let's move on to our next news. This next news is an article appearing on page number 10 and is talking about the recent report on prison statistics in India, which has been released by the National Crime Record Bureau. Now, this discussion of ours will fall under GS Paper 2 under the category of important aspects of governance. The first finding of this report is in relation to the under trials. Now, under trial prisoners are those persons who are facing trials in the competent court and they are technically under judicial custody, but for practical purposes are kept in the same prisons as convicted people. So, therefore, under trials are prisoners who are not yet convicted of any offence, but are undergoing their trial. Now, out of all the prisoners in India, 68% of them were under trial. And in fact, India's under trial population remains among the highest in the world. Hence, the author says that this suggests that the high proportion of under trials in the overall prison population may be the result of unnecessary arrest or ineffective legal aid during remand hearings. The second is the rise in the preventive detention in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. In 2016, Jammu and Kashmir saw a 300% rise in the number of people detained under administrative detention or preventive detention. Hence, the author feels that such a drastic increase means that this preventive detention is used by authorities in J&K to unfairly detain people without charge or trial and circumvent regular criminal justice procedure. The third issue is related to the underuse of Section 436A of the CRPC, which is in relation to the release of the under trials. Now, Section 436A of the CRPC allows the under trials to be released on a personal bond if they have undergone half of the maximum term of imprisonment that they would have faced if they were convicted. Hence, the author says in 2016, out of the 1500 under trials who were found eligible for release under Section 436A, only approximately 900 were released. Hence, Section 436A is not being used properly. The fourth is related to the suicide or the unnatural deaths being caused in the prisons. The author says the number of unnatural deaths in prison have doubled between 2015 and 2016. In fact, even the rate of suicide among prisoners has increased by 28% in the year 2016. In fact, the NHRC had said that on an average, a person is 1.5 times more likely to commit suicide in the prison than outside it, which is perhaps an indicator of the magnitude of mental health concerns which the prisoners face. The fifth issue is related to mental illness. The author says that about 6,000 individuals with mental illness were in jail in India in 2016. In fact, there is only one mental health professional for almost 21,500 of prisoners. And only 6 states and 1 union territory have a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Hence, lack of psychiatrists and psychologists remain another problem plaguing the Indian jails. In fact, the state of Odisha, Uttar Pradesh and MP, the 3 states with the most prisoners with mental illness, do not have a single psychologist or a psychiatrist. Finally, in this article, the author has said that this report has missed out on certain crucial details. The first is that the demographic details about the religion and the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe status of the prisoners was not given. Secondly, the prison statistics do not mention the number of prison visits by the official or the unofficial people. Now, this becomes crucial because prison visits include visits by district magistrates, social workers, researchers, etc. Hence, since no record has been kept of a prison visit, one cannot uncover the supposed torture and other forms of ill treatment which might have meted out to such prisoners. Hence, to increase transparency and balance the power symmetry in prisons, it is necessary that such information should also be released. Now, since we are talking about the state of prison and prisoners in India, this discussion will remain incomplete without discussing what are the problems facing the jails or the prisoners in our country today. The foremost problem is of overcrowding. Congestion in jails, particularly among under trials, has been a source of concern. India's prisons are overcrowded with an occupancy ratio of 14% more than the capacity of the jails. The second issue is of lack of resources. Even today, 33% of the total requirement of prison officials still lies vacant, and almost 36% of vacancy for supervising officers is still unfulfilled. Hence, lack of officials and other prison staff like prison guards, senior supervisory staff, etc. remains a problem. The third issue is of unsatisfactory living conditions in the prisons in our country. The overcrowding in the prisons lead itself to unsatisfactory living conditions such as an appalling sanitary facility and shortage of a medical staff. The fourth issue is of lack of legal aid. Now in India, legal aid to those who cannot afford it is only available at the time of trial and not when the detainee is brought to the remand court. Hence, the majority of the prisoners who have been locked up are those who have not been tried at all because they did not have proper legal aid. The fifth problem is of abuse of prisoners. Physical abuse of prisoners by the guard is another chronic problem. Further, women prisoners in Indian prison are particularly vulnerable for the custodial sexual abuse as well. Lastly, coming to what has been the recent steps by the Government of India as far as the prison reforms are concerned, the Ministry of Home Affairs recently approved the new prison manual of 2016, and this manual wants to bring a uniformity in laws, rules and regulations governing the administration of prisons in the India. Now you should know that prison as a subject comes under the states, that is, it is a part of the list 2. Hence, having uniformity in the prison governance system across all states becomes very important. In addition to this new prison manual has laid special emphasis on access to free legal services provided for under Article 39A of the Indian Constitution. Further, this prison manual also looks after the needs of the women prisoner, rights of the people sentenced to death, modernization of prisons, provisions for children of women who are prisoned, inspection of prisons, etc. In addition to this, certain guidelines have also been issued. Firstly, that in each district of India, an under-trial review committee has to be set up. Secondly, under-trial prisoners should be released at the earliest as per the provision of law. That is as per section 436A of the CRPC, which talks about the release of the under-trials. Third, competent lawyers should be impaneled for the under-trial prisoners in order to ensure that no under-trial person has to go through the agony of staying in the jail just because he could not afford a lawyer. Then there should be an improvement in the living conditions of the prisons, especially for the women prisoners. Further on, the information management system in the prison has to be made more robust and efficient. And lastly, the government should carry out an annual review on the status of the implementation of this model prison manual reform of 2016 and ensure that every state does implement this prison manual. Lastly, please try and attempt this mains practice question based on our discussion of prison reforms. With this, let's move on to our next news. This news appears on page number 9 and states that the species of the impressed tortoise has been discovered in Arunachal Pradesh. Now, for the first time, an impressed tortoise has been found in India in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. And this is the first record of the species from India. This elusive medium-sized tortoise species inhabits moist primary forest hill tracts of the Indo-Burma hotspot, which includes countries of Cambodia, China, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Thailand and Vietnam. Its IUCN status is critically endangered. And now with the discovery of this impressed tortoise in India, India now has 5 tortoise species and 29 non-marine chelonian species. Chelonian is an order of reptile that includes turtles, terrapins and tortoise. Now before the discovery of this impressed tortoise, only one tortoise, namely the Asian forest tortoise of the Monoria genus, was found in India. But now with the discovery of the impressed tortoise, India has 2 species under the Monoria genus, one being the Asian forest tortoise and the second being the impressed tortoise. Now coming to Asian forest tortoise, this tortoise is found only in the northeast India and its IUCN status is critically endangered. What is unique about this tortoise is that it is the only tortoise which lays its egg above the ground in a nest. The female uses both the front and the rear legs to gather material for the nest and lays up to 50 eggs deep inside it. So these were some important facts about the impressed tortoise and the Asian forest tortoise. This discovery of the impressed tortoise was done by a joint expedition of Arunachal Pradesh Forest Department, Help Earth and the Turtle Surveillance Alliance India program. Information about the Turtle Surveillance Alliance has been provided in your PDF. Now based on today's discussion, here is the first set of your prelims practice question. Please pause the video and solve them. We'll discuss the answer after 5 seconds. Question number 1 is in relation with the impressed tortoise. The first statement, it is only found in India. This is incorrect. The impressed tortoise is found in the Indo-Burma hotspot and in fact only recently has it been spotted in India for the first time in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Second statement, its IUCN status is critically endangered. Now this is correct. So the right answer becomes B, 2 only. Second statement is in relation with the health index released by the NITI Aayog. The first statement, it ranks states in the domain of health outcomes, governance and key processes. This is correct. Second, Kerala has been ranked first on overall ranking in the largest states. This is also correct. Third, New Delhi has been ranked on top in the UT category. Now this is incorrect. New Delhi has secured the 5th rank out of 7 union territories. And it is not Delhi but the union territory of Lakshadweep which has got the first rank. Hence the right answer to this question becomes B, 1 and 2 only. Now here is the second set of prelims practice question. Please again pause the video and solve them. We'll discuss the answer after 5 seconds. Question number 3 is in relation with the Asian forest tortoise. The first, it is the only tortoise to lay eggs above the ground. This is a correct statement. Second, in India, it is only found in Odisha. This is incorrect. In India, this tortoise is only found in the northeast. Hence, the right answer to this question becomes A, 1 only. Question number 4's first statement reads, the net availability of food grains to the people has not increased despite the increase in the production in the last few years. This statement is correct for India. Due to the reasons of population growth, wastages as well as exports, though the production of food grains in India has increased, but the net availability of such food grains to its citizens has not increased. Second, India has been able to reduce the number of stunted and wasted children since 2005 and 6. Now this is incorrect. Though it is right that the number of stunted children in India has come down to almost 38% in 2015-16, but the number of wasted children in India has rather increased from 19 to almost 21% from 2005 to 2015-16. Hence this statement becomes incorrect. So the right answer to this question is A, 1 only. With this, we come to an end for today's discussion. Let's move to the question for the day.